this one is all about traffic control and signs. We'll be talking a lot about this one is actually the largest chapter in your book. If you look through it, it's going to be about traffic lights, a bit about intersections, pavement markings, crosswalks, school zones, all that fun stuff. Okay, what is a traffic control? So a lot of this on the exams or on the test, a lot of it is like their terminology that they use versus the terminology we're used to. What a traffic control is, there are signs or lights that give direction to drivers and road users. They are what tell the drivers what is permitted or not permitted, and when to go and when to stop and when to slow down, things like that. So any traffic control can mean a sign or it can mean traffic lights. Traffic control signals, there are lights, and they use, I'm sure most of you guys are pretty familiar with traffic lights. If you've ever crossed the street, you know that it goes from green to yellow and to red to control the flow of traffic and of intersections and where roadways merge with each other. So these are the basic forms of, like, green means go, obviously, yellow means slow down or prepare to stop, and red means stop, you cannot go. But there's also additional things that we'll go on to, like, what does a green arrow mean? What does a flashing red light mean? So these are the basics of the colors of traffic lights, but they can also get more complicated as they add more things to it. And it's very important to know what they go, or what the traffic light is telling you to do as a driver and what it's telling other drivers to do, because it's not just you on the road, there's other drivers, but there's also other road users. There's also pedestrians and cyclists, and they are all coming from different directions, and they have to follow traffic controls as well. So in order for everyone's safety, that's what the traffic controls are there, and it's really important to know what they do. So I'm gonna show a video. I just need a second for it to load, and hopefully you guys can let me know if you don't hear any volume, but it should work.
Here are some common mistakes when making left turns.
So this video is just demonstrating what I had talked about, traffic controls. This one talks really specifically about left-hand turns at light-controlled intersections. So this is going to demonstrate some do's and some don'ts, and this will really highlight the importance of why it's important to know those lights. For everybody needs to know those lights, because the number one area where collisions happen are in intersections. Either because people are trying to fly through a yellow, or they're using poor judgment when oncoming traffic comes, things like that, or pedestrians. Even now with spring coming and warmer weather, there's a lot more cyclists on the road from what I've noticed. So you got to pay attention to all those things. Even if you have a green light, it doesn't necessarily mean you can go. You have to look at all the sides of the road, where you're going, and who is already in the road using it, like a pedestrian or a cyclist. So this video is put on from AMA, and it'll demonstrate, like I said, some of the do's and don'ts in order to be safe through intersections and knowing those traffic controls.
Here are some common mistakes when making left turns. Advancing when light is green but not yielding to oncoming traffic will result in a collision if there's an oncoming vehicle. Advancing when light is green but failing to shoulder check for pedestrians at the crosswalk, which results in a situation of failing to yield to pedestrians and oncoming vehicles. Turning too wide as a result of excessive speed may cause a collision. Also, a potential hazard is created by drivers who accelerate towards the intersection to beat a flashing hand signal. At a high speed, the vehicle is unable to turn into the left lane. Instead, it enters into the right lane, forcing the other vehicle to take evasive actions. Turning left at the same time as a right-turning vehicle is turning into the adjacent lane. The situation creates crash potential. A large vehicle waiting to make a left turn from the opposite side may obstruct your view of oncoming vehicles. Taking a risk and turning left while unsure of oncoming traffic may result in a collision. Finally, following another vehicle into the intersection is not permitted. Only one vehicle should advance into the intersection at a time. The correct approach to make a left turn with a dedicated left turn lane is to enter dedicated left turn lane as soon as possible. Observe signals and shoulder check. If the traffic signal shows an arrow indicated turn, proceed when arrow is green. If there's no arrow, advance into the intersection, keeping vehicle wheels straight, yield to oncoming vehicles and pedestrians at crosswalks, and then proceed when safe into the left lane. The correct approach to make a left turn without a dedicated left turn lane is to wait for the green light in the left lane. When light is green, advance into the intersection, keeping vehicle wheels straight, and proceed when oncoming vehicles have cleared the intersection and pedestrians have cleared the crosswalk.
So as you can see, it's not as easy as just green means go, right? There's you really got to pay attention to where you're moving your vehicle, where the other vehicles are. Is there a large truck in your way? Even though you have that green light to go left, you still need to be able to yield to oncoming traffic. So just because it's green doesn't mean you get to go right away. You can only proceed when it's safe to do so and when the intersection is fully clear from all users, including cars and pedestrians. So there's also more complicated, like that just showed you green and yellow, and it was also talking a bit about the hand signal for pedestrians. So those are all indicators. All those traffic controls tell you what you need to do. So say you were in that left turning lane and you had a flashing green light, that means you can go. That means that the other side of traffic, they have a red light so that you have the right of way to go forward. So just to be mindful, it's especially in urban centers like in Edmonton and large cities, you will definitely have a lot more than just green, red, and yellow. You'll likely have crosswalk pedestrian lights, you'll have turning lights or turning only lanes, things like that. So they can definitely get more complex. Any kind of traffic control signal can build up, and there's a lot going on. So you definitely need to know what's what. So on these lane reversal signals is what they're called. So as you can see, you can usually see these. I use the example, if you're familiar with the north side of Edmonton on 97th Street, they usually have these, which shows at the top, they will have X's and arrows. So the X's means if you're facing that X in that lane, like this vehicle here, you are not allowed to drive in that lane. You have to move over to the arrow, because that means that there's traffic coming from the opposite direction in that lane. So the reason they do these, like, why wouldn't you just leave it the same all the time, right? What they do is that this is on really major roadways. They do this to direct traffic when it comes to like rush hour period, when say in the morning on 97th Street, north side, you have a lot of people that commute downtown on regular hours, usually in the morning. There's a lot of people heading towards downtown, so they open up more lanes in that direction. And then after hours, like in the afternoon, around 4 to 6 p.m., when rush hour starts up again, there's a lot of people leaving downtown. So they switch those lanes to allow to give where there's the most traffic, they open up more lanes for them. And that just to help control where the most demand is for road users. So you have to be very mindful of that. I've seen people a lot on that street driving down the wrong lane because yesterday they were using that lane at that time, like say on a weekend they use that lane, but then come Monday they didn't realize that the lanes switch. So you definitely need to be mindful of looking up above on those lane reversal signals, because you gotta pay attention to making sure you're in the right lane. So that signal above, like I said, can change between an X and a green arrow, and it's all from different times to different days of the week. It really depends on the road itself and which direction you're going. So yeah, we're gonna talk. I'm gonna show you another video. This one's a little longer, but it does give a really good overview of the different classifications of road signs. There's a whole tons of signs, as you see in class 7. It's pretty much all signs, but we break it down into, there's 6 main classifications, and then you can add different things to those classifications. So those 6 classifications each mean something, and this video gives a really good summary of those different classifications and what they mean and why they're used in that certain way.
Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test, talking today about road signs and the major classifications of road signs. The 3 ways that road signs convey information are shape, the colors, and the text or symbols that are on the road signs. These are the 3 ways that road signs convey information to road users. Today we're going to talk to you about the major classifications of road signs, and this will introduce the road sign playlist here on Smart Drive Test. We'll be right back to talk to you about that. Smart Drivers, Rick with Smart Drive Test. Welcome back. Talking to you today about the major classifications of road signs. First and foremost, and the most prominent, are regulatory signs. The root word of regulatory is regulation. Regulation means law, and if it is the law, you must obey that sign. And the major regulatory signs are stop signs, yield signs, railway crossing signs, and speed signs, which are the rectangular signs with a black border, white background, and black text or symbols. These are all regulatory signs and must be obeyed, and drivers must have a knowledge of these for the purposes of a road test to be successful, either on a learner's or on an on-road road test. First and foremost, stop signs are octagon, 8-sided, very prominent. They have a white border, they're red backgrounds, and the letters stop written in white on them. If you're on a native reserve, they might be in the language of the native reserve on which you're on. Or if you're in Quebec, they'll be in French, arrête, which means to stop, as you can see here in the image. The next regulatory sign is the yield sign, which is an upside down triangle. It has a wide red border with a triangle, a smaller white triangle in the center. The yield sign indicates to the driver that they must give the right of way onto the road which they're entering, or to any pedestrian traffic, other road users. The next regulatory sign is rectangular in shape with a black border and a white background. Mostly speed signs, but slower traffic move to the right. For those of you traveling less than the traffic flow and are traveling in the hammer lane, it indicates to you, yes you, that you should move over to the right lane, which is considered the slow lane, so other people can pass. The next regulatory sign is the railway crossing. In most provinces in Canada and the United States, they are beginning to standardize this. It is an X with a red border and white background, indicates a railway crossing. If you're driving a larger class vehicle such as a bus, you may have to stop. If you're driving a truck hauling dangerous goods, you may also have to stop before proceeding across the railway crossing. If you're taking a road test in a manual transmission, no shifting over railway tracks for the purposes of a road test. The next sign, as you can see here, is the school sign. It is a pentagon. Looks like a house with 5 sides. Most of these are going to neon green. They are beginning to standardize these. However, some of them can be blue, or they could be green, indicating a school zone. If you're in a school zone in Canada, you have to drive 30 kilometers an hour. If you're working in the States and they have a school zone, it'll be 20 miles per hour. In British Columbia, for example, they don't have a sign indicating the end of the school zone. So when you're driving through the school zone, you have to look for the sign on the other side of the road and see the back of that sign. It's pentagon in shape, and you'll be able to know that you're at the end of the school zone and that you can resume speed after that sign. Do not speed in a school zone if school is in session. That's an automatic fail on a road test. Next most common sign, cautionary or advisory signs. They are usually diamond in shape, however they can be rectangular. They have a yellow background and the writing on them is black, or the symbols are black on the cautionary or advisory sign. One of the most common signs is the hazard obstruction sign, which is rectangular and has the hash marks on it to the left and right. And there's a full video, I'll put a card up here for you, about the hazard obstruction signs that will warn you of hazards and obstructions on the roadway and on which side to pass, or whether you can pass on either the right or the left. Next signs on a roadway, which are the most important, especially now in the summertime, construction season. Usually diamond in shape. They have an orange background with black lettering or symbols on them which tell you of construction zones. Many of these construction zones have reduced road speeds. So take note if there is a reduced road speed, especially if you're on a road test. Again, if you speed through a construction zone, automatic fail. As well, construction signs warn you of workers on the roadway and equipment, so make sure you're on the lookout for roadway workers and construction equipment in and around construction zones. The next one is lane usage. As you can see here, rectangular, black background, white border. The arrows on them indicate which lane you're going to be in and what that lane is going to do, whether it's going to turn left or right. Usually these lane marking signs are overhead of the lane, and they are in conjunction with road marks, so the same arrow that is on the sign will also be painted on the road surface, so have a look. Sometimes the road markers are a little hard to find in the spring because they've been wearing out by snow plowing action and traffic and whatnot. Services signs are rectangular, blue with a white background, and lettering is, or symbols are white on them, usually indicate hospitals or other services. Hospitals are the most prominent, as you can see here in the image. Action permitted, rectangular in shape with a green circle. Whatever action is permitted, turning to the left, turning to the right, stopping, those types of things will be with an action permitted. Some provinces use those as opposed to the inverse, which is action not permitted, as you can see here, which is the same rectangular sign with a white background, except it has a red circle with a line through it, which tells you that there's no stopping, no parking, whatever action is not permitted in the not permitted sign. You'll be tested about these signs on a learner's test, so make sure you know actions permitted and actions not permitted. The last sign category is the services sign or the destination sign, usually green with white lettering on them. Will tell you how far you are from a destination. For example, if you're in Kitchener, Ontario and traveling to Toronto, it will tell you the distance from where you're at to Toronto and how far it is. So if it's 110 kilometers to Toronto from Kitchener and you're traveling at 120 kilometers an hour, which is the speed limit on the 401, you know that it's going to take you an hour to get there. So it can also give you an ETA, an estimated time of arrival, if you pay attention to these signs and how far you can travel in a set amount of time at a given speed. So destination signs. Services. The other sign here you can see is brown, trapezoidal in shape. In some of the United States, these will give you forestry information in provincial parks and whatnot. Some of these will be written on brown signs. That's the last classification. It's not really a major classification of signs, but just to give you some indication of what this sign is about, will give you information about parks and forestry and those types of things. Those are the major classifications of signs that you will need to know for the purposes of a road test. In conclusion, regulatory signs, the major classifications of signs. The root word of regulatory is regulation. It means the law. You must obey these road signs. You don't obey these road signs on a road test, you're not going to be successful on a road test. So know your regulatory signs, stop signs, yield signs, speed signs, railway crossing signs, and school signs. All regulatory signs. The next one is lane usage signs. As you can see here, it's black, white border. The arrows on it are white as well. Advisory or cautionary signs warn you of hazards and obstructions on the roadway and anything else that you could potentially run into. Reduced speeds and those types of things are all cautionary or advisory signs, usually diamond in shape, can be rectangular, yellow with black lettering or symbols on them. Construction signs, orange with black lettering or symbols. Make sure you pay attention to construction signs, most important on a road test, because oftentimes these construction zones have reduced speeds and you must obey these reduced speeds. As well, in many states and many provinces, the reduced speed, if you're speeding in a construction zone, the fines are doubled. So just keep that in mind if you decide that you're going to go too fast through a construction zone. Finally, destination signs. Green with white or lettering or symbols on them. Usually it's lettering, which will tell you how far you are from a town, city, or hamlet. And you can figure out an ETA from the destination sign. Services, usually blue, rectangular in shape, telling you of hospitals and other services in the area. Forestries and parks can be brown with white lettering on them, and that's the last classification.